If you want to know how to make this adorable card using Emboss Resist, this video is for you. Hello friends, it's Jess Francisco. We're going to be jumping right into a fun technique using embossing powders and ink blending today. This technique, called Emboss Resist, is one of my favorites for a big statement on a card. There's something magical about the reveal after adding the ink, but we'll get to that in a little bit. You'll want to treat the surface with an anti-static powder. This helps make sure the embossing powder only sticks where we put the ink. Ink up the stamp with a clear embossing ink and then lay your card panel directly on the stamp. Smooth the card on the stamp so the ink is evenly applied. You could use a brayer here to keep your fingers clean if you prefer. Remove the cardstock from the stamp carefully, trying to keep your fingers from touching the design. Pour white embossing powder onto your inked cardstock and tap off the excess. I love to use Ranger's Superfine Detail Embossing Powder for Emboss Resist because it gives such great results. Use a heat tool to melt the embossing powder. It's so magical to watch the powder turn shiny as it melts. Next comes the fun part, ink blending. Pick 3 colors and blend them directly onto your cardstock, right over top of the embossed stamp design. For this card, I chose Prom Queen, Guppy, and Over the Moon from Simon Hurley Create line from Ranger. For blending, I do like to put something under my project like this silicone mat from Ranger. It keeps my desk clean and actually helps me blend smoothly, starting off of the edge of the cardstock and moving inward. I get best results when I move the ink blending tool in a circular motion and apply light to medium pressure while blending. If you press too hard, you'll see harsh lines in your ink blending, so try to keep a light hand. If you feel like the colors aren't quite blending together, you can go back over and add a little more ink to smooth out those areas. Once your blending is done, take a clean cloth or paper towel and buff off any ink that may be sitting on top of your embossed stamped image. You don't need to apply much pressure, the ink comes right off. Look at that beautiful white pattern popping against our vibrant ink blended background. To take our project from pretty background to finished card, we're going to need a sentiment. Use your favorite stamp positioner to stamp out this gorgeous scripty thanks sentiment from the Letter It collection from Ranger. You can stamp the "You're the best" sentiment at the same time if it's convenient for you. Use the same clear embossing ink from our Emboss Resist technique for this. Stamp the sentiments on black cardstock after treating it with anti-static powder. Pour on the white embossing powder and tap off the excess. Use your heat tool to melt the powder and we're ready to move on. Use a paper trimmer to separate the two sentiments if you stamped them on the same piece of black cardstock. Use a pair of sharp scissors to cut around the scripty thanks sentiment. This gives the look of a coordinating die and just takes a little bit of your time to achieve. This also makes sure we can see more of our beautiful background than if we left the sentiment as a larger rectangle strip on our card. If you're looking for ways to improve your fussy cutting, I recommend holding the scissors fairly still and moving the paper instead. If you hold the scissors still, I find that you get a smoother cut. Trim the background panel to 4 inches by 5 1/4 and use adhesive to mount it to a white A2 size card base. I used Simon Hurley Stark white cardstock for my background and my card base here. It's a nice sturdy 110-pound cardstock that works well for layers and card bases. Once you've attached your background to your card base, we're ready to put the finishing touches on our card. Foam tape is always a great choice as it adds dimension and interest to a card, and it's such a quick addition. Use a pair of scissors to trim the foam tape so it fits nicely on the back of each sentiment. Place the foam tape directly on the back of each sentiment and then remove the backing strip. Place the sentiments on your card and you're finished. Just like that, we have a beautiful card that anyone would love to receive. Emboss Resist is such a great technique to keep at the ready. I'm never disappointed and I hope you love it just as much as I do. I hope you're inspired and that you're off to create your own card now. Thanks so much for watching this video and I'll see you in another one really soon.